Hello. So I thought I'd try making another video about chips. I made one about a month ago with some preliminary thoughts, and I've had some more thoughts now that I thought I'd make another video and share. I was kind of half hoping to have definitively solved it by this point, but I haven't yet. And it's either because I'm getting thicker as I get older, or it's actually quite a complicated question. And I'm hoping it's the latter, but it's probably both. But it's quite tricky to figure out how to navigate. You've got all these doubles and blanks, and how do we navigate it with all these chips? What's the best way to do it? But I've had a kind of deep data dive into it, and I've cleared it up a little bit, and I just wanted to share some thoughts that hopefully might clarify things a little bit. Though I should preface it by saying that I'm currently ranked 1.5 million, and this is my first season as a more engaged manager, so I could easily be wrong. This is just my thoughts. I'm just going to share what's happening in my head, and if you think it's great, then good. And if not, just forget it. I've got these 4 strategies in the corner that I think are the front runners. The first one, plan 1, is free hit 28. Wildcard 33, bench boost 34. I'm just going to, in summary, I'm just going to, that one at the moment is the one I'm ever so slightly leaning towards. It's like the front runner by a whisker, I would say. But plan 3 and 4 are calling me, so I'm not sure at the moment. But plan 2 though, I think is turned out to be, I think is the worst, and I'm going to go into why I think that is. And it's a bit surprising because I've noticed a lot of people have mentioned that plan as their front runner, and I could be wrong because a lot of people who are way higher ranked than me think it's the best plan, so I could easily have missed something. But I want to explain why I think that's not the best plan. And plan 2 is a free hit 29, wildcard 33, bench boost 34. So the first 2 are very similar. Just plan 1 is free hit 28, plan 2 is free hit 29. And plan 3 I've nicknamed Risky Bisky because you could risk it for a biscuit. It's sometimes when I've tested it, it's come out really good, and other times it comes out really bad, and there's a lot of risk involved in it, and it could be incredibly explosive. It could be the one that will win it for you, and I'm tempted to do it, but I'm a little bit unsure about it. So that one's Risky Bisky, and that one's the wildcard 27, free hit 28, bench boost 29 or 34. And then the last plan I'm going to nickname Steady Eddie because it's every time I've tested it, it's just come out consistently good. Never the best, but always up there and good and consistent. And that is wildcard 29, free hit 32, bench boost 34. So they're the 4 plans. I will get into all the data. I've basically been geeking out because I've got way too much time on my hands, and I've been really enjoying this kind of stuff. So I built myself a transfer planner, which I've kind of been wanting to do, and I've got lots of graphs to show you. But before I do that, I just wanted to talk about. You can skip this if you want, but I wanted to talk about free hit 28 and 29. The distinction between those two, I've just found really interesting. I think game week 28 is central. It's the key, and it's central to all of this. And my feeling is I'm wondering whether it's a bit of a trap, in the sense that because it seems navigable without a free hit, I think people maybe are thinking, well, they should navigate it without a free hit, and I'm not sure whether that's necessarily true, because it kind of seems what's the point in free hitting in 28? When you can get a team out, we can plan now. We can get a team out, and it'll be a waste. And anybody free hitting in 28, well, they're not going to be any advantage to it. That's the feeling that people. I think maybe people have. This is my sense, but I think that might be a bit of a trap because my hunch is that the power of a free hit is all the surrounding game weeks. If you try to navigate 28. Without a free hit, then you're basically committing to carrying that 28 team for all the surrounding game weeks as well. Whereas if you free hit in 28, it frees you to build a totally opposite team to 28 for all the other game weeks. And the question is, who would you rather build a team out of? This is game week 28. These are the teams that are in, that are definitely playing. Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea, and these are all the players you can choose from. And these are the blankers, these are the likely blankers. Man City, Man United, Tottenham, Brighton, Brentford, all these teams. And then you got these guys, Liverpool, Fulham, Leeds and Wolves are like the possible. It depends on the result of Leeds and Fulham. If Fulham win, Liverpool, Fulham will become blankers, and Leeds and Wolves will become the players, and vice versa if Leeds win. So the question is, who would you rather build a team out of for the long run between like 25 and 32? The players or the blankers? And I'm going to show you my amazing diagram that I drew, because this is just me trying to visualize it. These are like the two groups splitting off, and the blue is like the free hit 29ers who are trying to navigate through 28. And they're building a team for 28 and 32, and then they're just going to free hit in 29. And then the other people are kind of building a team for 27 and 29, and they're just going to free hit in 28. And so, so which team do you want? And one way I've been thinking about free hits is kind of like slalom skiing. So if we think of ourselves as FPL managers as slalom skiers, we're going down a mountain, and the game weeks are like gates, and we're trying to maneuver our team through the gates by using transfers and captaincies and substitutions and hits or whatever. We're trying to maneuver our team through each gate, and somewhere down the mountain there's going to be one gate that is more awkward to get through than any of the other gates, and you have to really wrench yourself around. You lose all your momentum just to get through this one gate, and then you come all the way back again. And that gate is the one that you should use your free hit on. You just if you could just lop that off, then you can just plow through and keep your momentum. And an example of that is usually it's the FA Cup quarterfinal weekend, where you have all the in the quarterfinal, all the best teams are usually in the quarterfinal, so they blank in that weekend, and you're left with all these crap teams for one weekend, the Bournemouths and Nottingham Forest, Southamptons, whatever, for one weekend. And so what you ideally want to do is keep all your team full of all the best teams, the Man City's, Man United's, Arsenal's, and then for 1 week you just lop off this game week, you free hit to all the crap teams, because you don't want to hold them for the long term, and you don't want to dead end into them, or something. You don't want to start wrenching your team into it. It's too. So you just free hit for 1 week, straight back to your momentum team. That's what you would normally do. But this year we've got this kind of split, and it's more like a kind of Mario Kart, where you've got these two paths that are kind of equally decent, full of decent teams on both sides. This split has happened, and I feel like it's a trap. This path over here is tempting people into Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea. I mean, that's a bit strong, because it is still a good path, but it's like that's people are going down that path, but we've got this other decent path you can go down as well. And then people just free hitting in the opposite game week. And something I found interesting was that a lot of people were saying, what's the point in free hitting in 28 when I'm going to be able to get a team out that's just as good as your free hit team? There's going to be no points advantage. And I'm thinking the same thing about 29. I'm thinking, what's the point in free hitting in 29 when everybody's going to be able to get a good team out, and I'm planning to build a team for 29 that's going to be just as good as your free hit team? There's no comparable advantage there. And the bigger the double game week, the more likely it is that everybody is going to be able to get 11 decent doublers out. But again, the advantage is in the surrounding game. It's because these people who are building a team for 28, they're building a team for 28. So when I free hit in 28, it's no wonder we meet, because they're building a team for 28, and I'm going to free hit in 28. We meet there. And it's the same for 29. I'm building a team for 29. So when the people who free hit in 29 get there, we're both going to meet at the same point. So it's no wonder that there's no comparative advantage in these two free hits. So they might not seem like good times to free hit, but the way you should measure it is in all these surrounding game weeks. That's what I'm thinking. All the surrounding game weeks. And one other way of looking at it is like, so if you look at this ticker, The way people who are free hitting in 28, this is what their ticker looks like. If you hide 28, that's what their ticker looks like. So they're looking at this and thinking, wow, look at this, double for Brentford, double for Brighton, all these doubles coming up. I just want to maximize. I'm just going to get loads of Brighton, get a load of Brentford, and that's their ticker. They've still got 32 to navigate. They're going to have to figure that one out, either dead end into a wild card, or navigate or sacrifice it. But that's their ticker. Whereas if you look at people who are free hitting in 29, hide 29, that's their ticker. So they're just seeing this, like, all this red everywhere, and they're thinking, oh look, there's all these blanks in 28. They're the same people that are probably going to blank in 32. So I'm going to build a team full of the players, the Arsenals and Newcastles, and I'm going to try and navigate through all of this. And then I'm just going to sacrifice 27 and 31. 29's not in it because they're just free hitting it, so that's just a bonus game week. And it probably free hit 29 probably seems really explosive because you've got all these players from teams that aren't. The flip flop is massive, but it's not explosive to somebody who's preparing for 29, because they're just going to be there anyway. So yeah, that's just some ways of thinking about the free hit 28 and 29 distinction. It's the team in the surrounding weeks that are the more important thing to think about rather than the actual week you're free hitting. Anyway, so what did I want to talk about? So just one more thing before I get into the data, I just want to have a quick overview. You can jump through. I'll put timestamps on the video, but the overview. So this is the ticker, and I think I mentioned. This is just my guess. This is another alternative that could happen, but it's probably going to be something like this. Man City, yeah, who knows? We could get some cup upsets. Newcastle, Tottenham might be on. I've put it as off, but something like this anyway. And these are the tools we have to navigate this landscape. You've got free chips, wildcard, free hit, bench boost. Triple captain, it's a standalone, just use it in any other game week. You're not using one of these chips. And then strategy wise, we've also got things like dead ends, hits. You can sacrifice a whole game week, or you can try and navigate it like the people going through 28. You can try and navigate it. All these little bits of strategy. So keeping it as simple as possible. Bench boost, there's only really 3 game weeks you can use it. I think you should use it in 29, 34 or 37. Some might say it's just 29 and 34. But I have included 37 in here, and I'll get onto that in a minute. But 20, some people talking about bench boosting in 27. I don't see. I'm not going to. You can do what you want, but because the reason I don't think you should do it in 27 is because you can only get to 12 doublers max, because there's only 4 teams doubling, and 6 of those players will be Southampton, Crystal Palace players. Ideally, in a bench boost, you want all 15 of your players doubling, and some people might say, well, a good single week player might be better than a bad double game week player, which is true. But something that's better than a good single week player is a good double game week player. And I think you can get to plenty of them. I mean, the fixtures might be tough. So maybe that's a judgment call. Maybe that's a judgment call that some people wouldn't go for. But personally, I think there's plenty of good doublers. You can get to 15 good doublers in 29, 34, 37, is my feeling. But anyway, so keeping it simple, I've just those 3 for bench boost. The reason I put 37 in here as well is because I did this is my crude way of trying to measure the amount of points that are available in each game week. Which game week is most likely to be the highest point scorer? The way I did it was I took my top 24 players from each game week, which is like, this is my predicted points model score, and it's like the top 3 goalies, top 7 defenders, top 7 midfielders, top 7 forwards, and added up their scores for each game week. And it's not, it isn't an exact science. I'm just trying to get a sense of which game week will be the highest points scoring game week. And 34 comes out the best, even though there's only 5 doubles, whereas there's 6 in 29, and there's only 4 in 37. But 34 comes out the best. 37 actually comes out 1 point better than 29, interestingly, even though there's 6 double game weeks in 29 and only 4 in 37. That's the most amount of points from the top 24. Again, yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it seems to me like it's a crude measurement of how 34, because they might be easier fixtures in 34. And actually, this is another crude way of measuring the easiness of the fixtures. I basically divided this number, the number of points, by the number of fixtures. So this is the points per fixtures, which I think is a measure of the easiness of the fixtures. 28 comes out the highest, and that's probably because in game week 28 you've got like Arsenal versus Palace, Chelsea versus Everton, Newcastle versus Forest, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Wolves and Leeds. They're like easy fixtures. So even though there's only 5 fixtures, they're very easy fixtures. And 37, 34 and 29. So 29 is slightly harder fixtures. 34 and 37 are slightly easier fixtures. So maybe that's why. So all that to say, bench boost in 34 and 37, I still, if it falls this way, it might be worth saving bench boost for 34 or 37. 29 could be a bit trickier, even though there's more fixtures. But it's just something to consider. Then free hit, I've put as just 28, 29 and 32. Yeah, I've talked about 28 and 29 free hit. 32 is interesting because this is the ticker that Steady Eddie Plan 4 is looking at, and that's actually quite a nice ticker. You got 28 that you're going to have to dead end it into, and then wildcard out of for Plan 4. So you are going to have to navigate down into that, and you're going to have to sacrifice 27. But afterwards, you got this. That's your ticker afterwards. That looks really lovely for Plan 4. Just like pure green everywhere. You just get rid of that 32, free hit there. You can wildcard there. You can bench boost there. It's nice. So I like Steady Eddie. It is tempting me. It looks really nice. Yeah. So they're the times to free hit. Free hitting in a double again. So you could free hit in 37, but I don't see the point because there's no swing like what I said about the slalom skiing and stuff. There's no power in it in 37 because everybody's going to be able to build to 37 anyway. So yeah, it's really 28, 29 and 32 because they provide the greatest amount of swing. Like you can build a team. Yeah, I won't get into it again. And then wildcard, I've put down as 27, 29 and 33 are the best options. 29 and 33, I like that because they can double up as a dead end. If you dead end into 28, then wildcard out of it, or dead end into 32 and then wildcard out of it, it's like a alternative free hit. And I like that. I like the idea of using a free hit in one of these blanks and then a dead end into a wildcard into the other because it's like using 2 strategies to cover both of the blanks. And wildcard 33, I think, is particularly optimal because it has a dual usage of you dead end into 32, then wildcard out of it in 33, but the wildcard out of it is also setting up for bench boost 34. So that feels particularly optimal, wildcard 33. But then wildcard 27 is also good because obviously you can maximise this because the Brighton and Brentford doubles, because you're not going to be able to get to 6 Brighton and Brentford, probably not in 2 game weeks, without either taking hits or a wildcard. So it might be good there. Maximise the bench boost there. It just means you're going to end up having to sacrifice 32. You can't really dead end into it. You're just going to have to sacrifice it. But anyway, so they're the 3 strategies. And let's get into the data, shall we? I don't want to go too deep into it because it's going to be boring. But just to give you a sense of I would rate my confidence in this model about 70%, which is that I'm confident enough that I'm going to base my actions on it. I feel like it's made my decisions easier, but I'm not confident enough that I might not have missed something. Like I could easily have. There could be some stone that I haven't left unturned, and it could just totally change everything. There could be some really obvious error that I've missed. I'm not that confident, but I'm confident enough that I'm going to act on it. And it's just I don't know whether I should get into it. I think I'll just go to the findings, because that's the more interesting thing. It's a pretty reliable data, though. I think it's the points predicted model is based on XG FPL data. It's quite form heavy rather than past season data heavy. The fixtures, the fixtures have got a good weighting. I think I looked into past season data of like how much fixtures affect form, and it's about 30%. So if a player goes to the Etihad at Man City, their form drops on average by about 30%. I've worked all this stuff out. I think it's all right. I'm 70% trustworthy of it. Like whatever. Anyway, this is the findings. So I went through each plan. And this is my first try. I just kind of flew through it. I did one plan where I just did nothing. I took my team, just left it for all the game weeks. What would happen? I got 977 points. I did another plan where I did no chips and no hits. Just tried to navigate with free transfers. These are like just to get a sense of a base level. Then basically when I ran through all the plans, this was the results here. So plan 1 came out. Plan 1 and Plan 3 came out the best, like basically neck and neck. Steady Eddie came out just, again, good. It was fine. And Plan 2 came out like quite a lot worse. So that's what happened when I did the first try. Then I added Game Week 24 data. So Game Week 24 happened. I updated all the data. Technically, if I was doing this as a better scientist, I would run through it all again, because with different data, I might make different choices, because this is just me manually going through making my own choices. It's not a very good exact science. It's just me figuring it out. When I added the Game Week 24 data, though, Plan 3 suddenly plummeted and became the worst. And I don't know why. It's just made me feel a bit uneasy about Plan 3. Could be that my data's crap and there's some glitch in my system. I don't know, but found that interesting. But again, the rest was all about the same. I then added Brighton versus Bournemouth, because I hadn't added that to the fixtures before. I added that to 31 just to see how that would affect things, and Plan 3 did catch up a bit now, but Plan 2 is still kind of the worst. But anyway, these two are not really very reliable. I was just messing around with new data. Then the double Game Week 29 fixtures got announced, and so I decided to do it all over again, and I added the new fixtures this time, and I updated my planner and did a whole go through again, this time a bit better, with all the new fixtures. And a lot of the fixtures I did in the first run, I kind of changed a bit, so I really kind of made sure it was a good test, I think. And this time, the way it came out was Plan 3 came out really good. Like, that was the best by quite a way. Plan 4 and 1 were about neck and neck. And again, Plan 2 came out the worst, like by another about 30 points. So that was like, again, that made me feel like perhaps there's something structural about Plan 2 that kind of handicaps you. And because this was a whole different fixture list, a whole different way run through, and it came out pretty much the same, about 30 points below. So I did wonder whether there's something structural about Plan 2. So I was getting put off about it. But then I did try one more thing, which is I thought if Leeds beat Fulham, I updated all the fixtures to reflect what would happen if Leeds beat Fulham. And I just redid Plan 2. I should probably have redid all of them, but it takes a while. So I just did Plan 2, and I managed to get that back up to a respectable level. It still came out last, but it wasn't. It was kind of in the crowd. And so if Leeds beat Fulham, then maybe Plan 2 is like still on the table. But I still wouldn't do it because it still came out last. And I still think there are other reasons to not go for it. But I'll get onto that in a minute. So that's what I did. So I ran through all the things. I ran through them twice, all the plans. and this was the points that came out. And it just, I only did it like not as an exact science. I just wanted to get a ballpark sense, and that was the interesting finding, was that Plan 2 both times came out quite substantially lower, and Plan 3 is interesting. The fact that it came out like quite a bit higher is interesting. Another way to cut it, to look at the data, is these two plans I did when I did it with the double game week 29 fixtures. I counted up how many fixtures I was able to get to, in terms of, like, you know, if you've got 15 single game week players in a game week, that's 15 fixtures. If you've got 15 double game week players in a game week, that's 30 fixtures, and whatever. And if you've got blankers and doublers, I just added up how many fixtures I could get to. And Plan 1 got to the most amount of fixtures, 269. Plan 4, again, steady Eddie, never the best, but always decent, good. But Plan 2 and 3 were the worst, got to the least number of fixtures. And again, even if Leeds beat Fulham, it didn't seem to change much. Plan 2 still didn't get to any more fixtures. Not that that's necessarily a measure of, because points is the most important thing, not necessarily fixtures, but I just thought it was one way of thinking about it. How many actual fixtures can you get to? And on that note, I also did another little test where I tried to go through, I went through the transfer planner, but my goal was to maximize the most amount of fixtures. I forgot about points, didn't care about points. I just measured how many fixtures could I get to. And I had one rule, which is that I can't take hits, because otherwise you can just you take a load of hits and get to maximum fixtures every time. So no hits, and I just ran through each game week using each strategy to see how many fixtures I could get to, because I wanted to try and see if there's like a structural kind of reason why you can get to more fixtures on some strategies than others to navigate through this. And the Plan 3 came out the top. Plan 3. So this is what I mean by Plan 3. It's a bit of a wild card kind of strategy. Sometimes it comes out top, sometimes it comes out bottom. But so structurally, maybe Plan 3 is the one where you can get to a lot of doublers. And I didn't have to just throw a load of Wolves and Crystal Palace players in there. It was mainly Brighton, Brentford, Newcastle players, and then towards the end, I think it was Man United, Liverpool, Man City players. So that comes out top. Plan 1 actually comes out bottom now. Plan 2, little bottom. Plan 4's bottom. So again, this is not an exact science. I'm just trying to get senses, pick up senses of what to do. And this is kind of interesting, which is that, so this is the number of players, number of fixtures per plan, per game week that I was able to get to. And this is if it's a 0, it means that was the maximum, that it won that round. It got so 24. Plan 2 got to 24 in game week 25 fixtures, so it's got 0 there. But Plan 1's got -3 because it was 3 less than Plan 2. If that makes sense. So a 0 is like it got to the max in that game week. And basically, if you look at Plan 3, it did really well. All of this first half, it just did well with max, only a little -1 there, max, a little -2 in 32, takes a little hit there, max fixtures, and then it has a big hit in 37, -6 there. But the theme is one of Plan 3 getting off to a really good start. It just flies ahead, really strong start, and then there's this sense of like it's just too little too late. Like the other plans tried to catch up at the end and it's too little too late, and this is reflected here. So these are my plans, and all this data is based on, again, non-exact science, so don't take this to the bank, but I'm just trying to get a sense. So this is the graph of that second time I went through the run through, and the pink is Plan 3, the green at the bottom is Plan 2, and then the 2 in the middle, the blue, is Plan 1, and the turquoise is Plan 4. But the point is here, this pink one, Plan 3, sorry, the pink one, Plan 3, which is wildcard 27, free hit 28, bench boost 29. It gets off to a flyer. It makes this massive kind of like advantage at the start, and then it keeps it, and the other plans just can't catch up. They try to catch up in 34 and they just can't do it. And the bottom plan, this green one here, plan 2, free hit 29, wildcard 33, bench boost 34, it gets off to a bad start, and then it actually kind of gets worse towards 32, probably because you're building a team out of players who are suboptimal. You know, you're just dead ending into these two teams, two game weeks, and so it kind of loses ground there. Then it kind of starts to catch up, but it's kind of too little, too late at the end. That's the kind of hunch that I'm getting. Yeah, so that is what happens with that. What else did I want to say about that? Double experiment, done that. Show graph, same from here. Yeah, and then one other way you can look at this is I basically compared plan 3 to plan 2. So plan 3 is the risky bisky. It came out top, and plan 2 came out worse. That's free hit 29, wildcard 33, bench boost 34, and this is them compared. So you can see like plan 3, risky bisky, gets off to this massive start and has all this advantage. Then plan 2 starts clawing back that advantage in the second half, but it's not enough, and you can kind of see that the victory comes in all these other little mini game weeks. 27, there's a massive boost, and 29, there's a massive boost. Plan 2 claws it back in 34, but in 32, when plan 2 is dead ending into it, plan 3 doesn't have a strategy for 32, so plan 3 just sacrifices 32. So that's why plan 2 catches up. I hope you can keep up with this. So plan 2, that's why it catches up, but it's not enough. And all these other game weeks, you know, plan 3 is free hitting in 28, so it gets a boost there. And then it's still got this good team for 30. It has a little advantage in 31 still. And yeah, so plan 2 just can't, even though plan 2 wildcards in 33, so it starts to get a bit of a benefit here, but never claws it back. And that's the theme I seem to pick up. Plan 4 versus plan 1, Steady Eddie versus the best by a whisker plan. There's not much in it. This is only a few points in it. I don't know whether I'll go through it. Plan 1 is the bottom, plan 4 is the top. So plan 1 is maximizing 27 because he's going to free hit 28, whereas plan 4 is dead ending into 28, so that's where he gets that loss there. But then plan 4 wildcards in 29 and gets the advantage back, then free hits in 32 and gets a big advantage there. They both bench boost in 34, but plan 1 takes that a little bit better because plan 1 wildcards in 33. I don't know. I don't think you need to. I don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be. But that's in a nutshell, though. I think this graph is interesting, though. That's the theme. Wildcard plan 3 just gets off to such a good start that the others can't catch up. But yeah. Let me just see what else was I going to say. Yeah, did I show you? Let's have a look. I heard one question asked about when's the best time to sacrifice a game week, and so I mean you might want to look at this graph and whatever points score is the lowest in a game week, maybe that's the one to sacrifice. 32-28. There's not many points on offer, so if you did sacrifice it, your loss might not be that bad. Don't know, just a thought to throw out there. Did I show you this graph? I think I did. I can't remember if I did. This is a goal scored. I don't think I did. If I did, just skip past it, but my memory's really bad. I looked at the number of goals scored each game week over the past 5 seasons. And yeah, so over the past 5, and this is per fixture as well, so there's nothing to do with double game weeks, blank game weeks. It's per fixture, the number of goals scored over the past 5 seasons. Game week 38 is obviously always a very high scoring game week, and we all kind of like intuitively know that. That makes sense. But interestingly, 25 and 29 come out the lowest. And it could just be variance, but I just thought that was interesting. It's just one little tiny nugget that puts me off bench boosting in 29. And it may be nothing. I mean, 34 is not much better, and neither is 37. So, but I don't know. It could just be variance though. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. And then is that all I wanted to show? I think that is all the data. And then I just wanted to kind of have a look into some other ways to think about these 4 strategies that might help a little bit to kind of get a sense of which one's best and which one's worst. Other pros and cons. So here's the fixtures. Here are the plans. And one way to think about it is, one way is these 2 blanks, 28 and 32. I feel like a good strategy has a plan for navigating both of them. If you free hit is a good way, but if you've got a plan like this, plan 1, free hits in 28, and then it dead ends in, and then wildcards, dead ends into 32 wildcard. So it's got a plan to cover both of them. Plan 2 doesn't. It's got the dead end into a wildcard for 32. It kind of got a plan for 28 where it kind of dead ends, but it's like it dead ends into 28 and then extends that dead end into 32. So doesn't feel quite optimal for me. Plan 3 has a free hit in 28, but nothing in 32. It just sacrifices 32. So that doesn't seem optimal. Doesn't cover both of those bases. And plan 4 is good because it dead ends into 28, wildcards out of it, and it free hits in 32. So I've got this like little pros and cons kind of tickometer thing. So yeah, plan 1, plan 4 has a tick for that, whereas plan 2 and plan 3 don't. Yeah, plan 1 and plan 4 they get through 28 and 32 with both free hit and the dead end strategy. Another way of looking at it is how many sacrifices does each strategy need to use, and my feeling is that I don't think plan 1 needs to make any sacrifices at all. Maybe a little bit, like in game week 27, in order to get your Brighton and Brentford, you can't wildcard in this strategy. So in order to get your Brighton and Brentford, you might have to take a few hits. You could think of that as a sacrifice, but it's not really, because the hits pay off because you're getting them for 27 and 29 and beyond. The Brighton players for 31 as well. So it's not really a sacrifice. And then dead ending into wildcard 33 and into 32. It's a bit of a sacrifice there. You're going to have to make a little sacrifice. You have to bend your team from 31 into 32. But all your Brighton players and potentially some Newcastle players will already be in your team set up there. So you only have to make the sacrifice, as in getting rid of them for 32. It's not so bad. So not many sacrifices in game week in plan 1, whereas plan 2 you have to sacrifice 27 because you can't get Brighton and Brentford players because they blank in 28. They're probably going to blank in 28. So you have to just sacrifice 27. You might be able to get 1 or 2 players, but you have to sacrifice that. You also have to sacrifice if Brighton and Newcastle goes in 31, which at the moment is like, it's a slightly the front runner, but it might not do. But if it does go in 31, then you also kind of have to sacrifice that because you won't have any Brighton and Brentford players in your team because of 28. And then you free hit 29. You're only going to have 30 to 31 to bring your Brighton and Newcastle players in, and then you might have some Newcastle. Yeah, you'll probably have Newcastle. That'll be alright. So it's just the Brighton players, and then you've got to get rid of them all again as well. So it's a little bit more of a sacrifice than strategy 1, because strategy 1's already got those Brighton players in. Strategy 3 sacrifices game week 32 because you've used all the chips here. So when you get to game week 32, you just have to sacrifice it. You can kind of maximize all these other doubles, but you're just gonna have to sacrifice that. And when I did the run through, I actually ended up with like 6 players for game week 32. This was the run through where I ended up with top with 1,188 points. the one that smashed it, and I only had 6 players in game week 32, which is interesting. So you have to sacrifice that. And strategy 4, Steady Eddie, you have to sacrifice 27 as well, because you're dead ending into 28. So you can't get your Brighton and Brentford players. You can't get your maximum Brighton and Brentford because you're dead ending into 38. So, yeah, only really Plan 1 passes that test, I think. It's not really many sacrifices in Plan 1. That's another reason why I like Plan 1. No sacrifices involved. Plan 2 actually has kind of 2 sacrifices. Then Plan 3 and 4 have... I mean, maybe that's where it loses its points. Yeah, it's got 2 sacrifices there. Plan 3 and 4 has a sacrifice. Another way to look at it is information. Game week 29, we will probably have all of the information before game week 29 of the rest of what's going to happen. You know, maybe not game week 37, but by that point we can probably have a good guess. I think just before going into game week 29, we'll have pretty much the full picture. Whereas here, we still don't really know what's going to happen in 34. And to an extent, all of these are a punt in the dark. The choice of whether to go for Plan 3 and bench boost 29 or to wait for these ones, all of that is in the dark, because there is a chance that game week 34 might not be a big double. I'm hoping people who know more about this than me will be able to kind of clarify and give me confidence that it will be. But I don't actually know that. I think there'll be at least like 6 or 7 fixtures, and but I don't know that they won't just dump them all in 37. I mean, some of them have got 2, so I think we'll have like a minimum of 2 or 3 fixtures here. I think at least. I don't know though that we won't get loads in 37, because in previous seasons with COVID, which is very similar to this season with the level of disruptions and postponed fixtures to reschedule, they were still really big doubles at the end rather than in the middle. So I don't see why. I don't know. It's possible that there could be loads in 37, but most of the experts seem to think it'll be about 5 fixtures in 34, 4 in 37. So, but we're still somewhat in the blinds. I don't know what that game week 34 is going to look like. Whereas, so there's that. But if you look at plans like Plan 4, wildcarding here in 29 feels really nice, because when you wildcard there, you're going to have all this information. It's another thing that makes me lean towards 4. You've got all that information, so you can just wildcard the perfect team to navigate all of this. Whereas if you're wildcarding here in 27, what if things don't pan out the way you think? You might have a suboptimal team. So this is why Risky Bisky Plan 3 is a bit of a risk, because you're kind of punting in the dark. You're wildcarding in 27 when you're still in this blind territory here. And I think it's kind of similar to 1 as well. You're kind of, because 1 you're committing. In Plan 2, you're dead ending into 28. You can always switch to Plan 4. You're not making any real choices until 29 when the lights come on. Whereas Plan 1 and Plan 3, you're committing to certain paths in the dark. So yes, that's something to think about. So Plan 1 and Plan 3 fail that test, I think. Plan 2 and Plan 4 are a bit better there. Another thing, nearly at the end, another thing is the gap between the wildcard and the bench boost is potentially a negative. Wildcard 33, bench boost 34 seems really optimal because there's just no gap. That's the best time to do it, like really nice. The gap between 27 and 29 seems it's only 1 game week, but there's also an international break in there. So it's a little bit risky again, risky bisky. And Plan 4, this is a negative for Plan 4. There's a massive gap between the wildcard and the bench boost. And there's a lot that could happen. I mean, on average, you're probably going to get about 3 injuries, 3 fires to put out. And if you think about, well, you're free hitting in 32, so your transfers might not be that valuable. So it might be okay. But there could be a double, Brighton double going in there as well. Those transfers might be valuable. So little bit of a negative for Plan 4, that one. So I gave those 2 across, Plan 3 and Plan 4. But Plan 1 and Plan 2, perfect. That's the perfect timed, no gap at all. And then I put one last category I've called Tony, because I just felt like Ivan Tony is also a problem, because if you've got a plan that it depends on Ivan Tony too much, he could potentially scupper your plans. And plan 1 and 3 depend on Ivan Tony quite a lot. You've got this triple Brentford here, and double Brentford here, double Brentford here. And Ivan Tony's a big part of that. He might even be a captain choice in 27. But if he gets banned or suspended for 2 games, I mean, it's not a massive problem. He's one of your 11 players, and if you just switch him to like Mbuemo, who gets about half the points that Tony would get, he's not going to make a huge dent to these plans, but it's a little. He could be a little scuppering, could cause problems, use up a transfer. I think I looked into Trippier's suspension when he got banned from betting charges, and it was like, I think it was like 6 months from the time he got charged to the time he actually got. He wasn't allowed to play football. So I feel as though I only need Tony up until 29. I can sell him by 30. So it might be alright. It's just his yellow card suspension. He's on 8. If he gets to 10, he gets 2 match ban. If he gets a yellow in 26, it's going to make it really tight. So yeah, so Tony is a cross for plan 1 and plan 3. But plan 2 and plan 4, you don't even need Tony. So you're free from that one. So yeah, that is everything in my brain. So in conclusion, what do I think? It looks really weird. Plan 3, it comes out so high, and yet it's just got 5 X's. It's like it shouldn't be a good plan. And because the other thing about plan 3 is that this is kind of a worst case scenario for plan 3. It's possible that 32 could be more navigable. Newcastle and Tottenham might be on, or Man United versus Chelsea might be on. Might actually be easier to navigate. 34 might end up being even better. 34 might be worse. And so the bench boosters peoples might not catch up with you. This Newcastle Brighton game could actually go into 32 if Man City and Tottenham make the semi-finals of the FA Cup and Brighton don't. Then I think Newcastle and Brighton could go in 32, and that would be nice. You wouldn't have to kind of like dead end or sacrifice it so much. That would make that easier to navigate too. So this is why it's like there's a good upside here. You could take the risk, get a really good head start, and then if things go your way, you might just keep going up. It might be great, but it could be really bad as well. So yeah, interesting. Don't know. I might go for this plan 3. It's tempting. Plan 4, steady Eddie. Plan 4, you can like. It's nice because if you do plan 2 and then you change your mind, you can always just wildcard and set in 29 instead of free hit. And I think I would recommend people do that. If you're set on dead ending, just wildcard in 29 instead. But then plan 1 just feels like that might be the best strategy, especially with this wildcard 33 bench boost 34, and the fact that I fancy that 34 is going to be the one that will be more points on offer, and wildcarding in front of that, and wildcarding in 33, I've got a bit more information. Just doesn't feel as fun, but don't know. So I haven't actually decided, but anyway, I thought all of this data might help people to think about it a bit more clearly. I've probably made it more complicated, but yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Yeah, okay. I hope that was helpful, and see you later. Bye.